So I've been wanting to make this video for a really long time now, probably since the launch of Dark Souls 2. Which game is better overall? Dark Souls or Dark Souls 2? That's a huge ass controversy going on right now, and I want to give my point of view on it. So first I'm going to be explaining what Dark Souls 2 improved upon in my opinion. Note, my opinion. And then I'm going to be explaining what Dark Souls 1 did better. So leave your comments down below. I really want to see what you guys think, which game is better overall. And yeah, without further ado, let's just get straight in by points. Alright, so my first point is going to be about the combat. Now, the combat in Dark Souls 2 just feels a lot more polished to me. There's more weapons, there's more movesets, it's a lot easier to chain combos together. It feels a lot more fluid, and there's a lot more spells, and with spells I do mean pyromancies, hexes, and all that kind of stuff that's spells for me. There's a lot more of them, even though there are a lot of reskins and stuff and weapons from Dark Souls 1 that transferred over to Dark Souls 2. It just feels a lot better. Like, take dual stancing and dual wielding, for instance. It was useless as hell in Dark Souls 1. Now, in Dark Souls 2, it's one of my favorite things to do. It's just so much fun. And like I said, it just creates so much more variety in what you can use. The movesets and all that, I feel like that is a lot more enjoyable, a lot more polished, and just a lot better done in Dark Souls 2 than it was in the original Dark Souls. Now, the items overall in Dark Souls 2 I feel are better. There's a lot more stuff you can do with the items. There are life gems, there's stuff that can replenish your spells. There's also stuff like the soul vessel, so if you fuck up your build, you can just respec or you can just change it entirely. And you got stuff like the bonfire aesthetics, which I absolutely love because it just ups the difficulty, and if you want to fight bosses, you don't have to go through the entire goddamn game just to fight one boss. You can just pop a bonfire aesthetic. And I know if that were in Dark Souls 1, I would be fighting Artorias and Manus and all those great bosses just over and over and over again. It would be so much fun. And I just feel like the items overall are a lot better in Dark Souls 2. Now, this next one is kind of half a point because overall Dark Souls 2 does have better graphics and animations than Dark Souls 1. However, the lighting in some of the places in Dark Souls 1 I feel like are superior, like the lighting in Kill of the First Flame. I really like that place. And some of the places in Dark Souls 2 just feel bland, like the torch mechanic just got fucking shitted on. What happened to that? And the E3 graphics just got completely demolished. If the graphics from E3 and the lighting dynamic were in Dark Souls 2, oh my god, it would look so amazing. Could you imagine like Majula, Hade, or Dragonair? Oh my... It will look so goddamn good. And I gotta also mention the UI and the menu design is better in Dark Souls 2. It just feels a lot more organized, better overall. Just the fact that you can pop more souls at the same time deserves a point in my opinion. Oh, almost forgot about the Covenants. I do believe there's more of them in this game, and overall they are better. It gives you a lot more playtime if you really want to max out every single Covenant, like the Sunbros and the goddamn Sentinels and Brotherhood of Blood. Whew, 500 kills. I'm not into that. Not much of a PvP guy. Speaking of PvP and online, I have to also give a point in Dark Souls 2 favor here, because connecting with your friends is a lot easier than going back to the days of summoning failed Dark Souls 1. oh, was that the wind or something? Now, even though PvP, I can't really comment much on that because I don't really PvP at all, and I have pretty much shitty internet, so I can't really come with a valid point there. But like I said, joking around with my friends and stuff like that, it's a lot easier to connect with them, especially since you have that ring god stuff. You guys know what I mean. So yeah, online and the Covenants, that's 2 more points. So my last point that goes to Dark Souls 2 is definitely that you have a choice before going to New Game Plus, and the fact that New Game Plus is actually a little bit different from ordinary New Game. Just the fact that there are some red phantoms here and there, that some of the boss fights have some changes in them, just makes it feel a lot more immersive and get some variety. Like, there are also new enemies and stuff like that, so I really enjoy that. I thought it was a nice touch. Now, just out of that, you can already tell that I'm not one of those guys that go around and say, Dark Souls 2 is fucking trash, I hate the game, I didn't get any enjoyment out of it, Dark Souls 1 is superior. Yeah, that pisses me off too, but I do agree to some extent, but Dark Souls 2 is not a bad game at all. If I would have to rate the 2 games, Dark Souls 1 is definitely a 10 out of 10 for me. Dark Souls 2 is an 8.5. However, does that mean it's bad? No, just in comparison to Dark Souls 1, it improved on some things, but it lacked in some more important things, which I'm going to be discussing right here now. Now, my first point to Dark Souls 1 definitely goes to better map design. The world connected much more together. Like, you open shortcuts and you see like, oh, this place connects to that place and that connects to that place. That's pretty cool. And it was just fun to explore because you were forced to explore it. Like, your mother just kicked you out of the fucking door, go explore this goddamn world. And unlike that in Dark Souls 2, you can warp from each bonfire from the fucking start. And that just makes each area just feel like an empty fucking corridor, which you go, there will be an end there, it will not connect to any of the other places. Like, Majula is the circle, and then there's just a lot of dead ends. There's a road, there's a dead end. There's another road, there's a dead end. So the point of this is just killing the boss, get to the bonfire, and warp back, take another road. And this really just kills the immersion for me, because the world just feels dull. And this is one of the highest critique for this game. A lot of people will agree on this, because just... that was one of the biggest disappointment for me in this game, honestly. And some of the world design in Dark Souls 2 doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like, how exactly does Earthen Peak and Iron Keep just connect? How do they fit together? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. And the fact that you can't go to Drangley Castle because there's some fucking rubble in the way. Who thought of that? Who thought that would be a good decision? Honestly, that was just fucking stupid. So instead of climbing over the rubble and go to Drangley Castle, my chosen undead decides to go and kill fucking the 4 old ones or gather 2 million souls to open the door instead of just climbing over some fucking rocks. Really? Really? Next point. The enemies / bosses. Now this was what basically pissed me off the most about Dark Souls 2. There's not one boss in Dark Souls 2 that I can say that I enjoy, that I like. And that is just depressing for me, because the bosses in Dark Souls 1 are so memorable. I love so many of them. Artorias is my favorite boss of all time in any video game. The fight with him is just so goddamn fun. And Manus and Calamite, Gwyn, the Four Kings, Ornstein, Smo, all of those bosses are great. Sif also. And then you go to Dark Souls 2, which most of the bosses are just fucking dudes in armor that have similar movesets, and it just feels so tagged out, so lazy. Like, most of the boss fights, you just go around and you wait for that same opening that they do in the entire goddamn fight. Take the Throne Watcher and Throne Defender, for example. They're a pathetic attempt to recreate the rush you get when fighting Ornstein and Smo. What it turns out to be is just a boring-ass fight where you go and just wait for the same stupid-ass opening that they leave you every time they do that one single attack that you have to wait for. And it just feels so lazy. And then there's the old Dragon Slayer. You brought back a fan favorite, or at least a clone of him, and you make him into such a goddamn pathetic fight. Strafe to the right, you beat him. Like, it's stuff like that just pisses me off. There's not one single boss in this game that I died to more than 5 times. And that is in my first playthrough. The boss I died to the most was the Ancient Dragon. And the Ancient Dragon just stands there and spams 2 fucking attacks. Which is just so horrible and lazy. You got a goddamn Ancient Dragon. You could have made it into another Calamite fight. Even better, because he's just so fucking big and enormous. There's so much potential there. And what do? He stands there, spams the 2 fucking attack. And what you have to do is run to the entire side of the map. Then you run back. You hit him a little bit. Then you run. And then you run back. The same can be said about the design of most of the bosses. I was not impressed at all. Like I said, most of them are just dudes or demons in armor and stuff like that. It's just gets boring, because there are so much diversity and creativity when it comes to the designs of the Dark Souls 1 bosses. You cannot tell me you didn't shit your pants the first time you saw the Gaping Dragon. Or that you didn't cry a little bit the first time you killed Sif after the DLC and you saw him limping and stuff like that. The feels. Anyhow, let's back to the point. Which brings me back to enemy design. Now, there were a couple of cool enemies in Dark Souls 2. There's not denying that, but not nearly as many as in Dark Souls 1. Like, there aren't really many enemies in Dark Souls 2 that made me go like, oh my god, I don't want to fight that, I'm just gonna turn back. Or like, that's a pretty badass enemy. Like, I really want to see what this guy can do, so let's fight him. Which brings me to the difficulty points. Now, Dark Souls 1 is much more unforgiving than Dark Souls 2. You cannot argue that. Like, just the fact that you have that goddamn ring which keeps your soul so you can repair that. That's fucking stupid as hell. Just makes the game feel so easy. And it's just so easy to get over leveled in this game. Farm the Giant Lord for a couple of hours, you can get to level 300. It took so many more souls to upgrade your level in Dark Souls 1. Like, if you actually saw somebody level 700 and... Like, what is the max level? Well, either way, if you saw somebody in the max level, they were cheating. If not, they played this game for like 5,000 hours. Then I could accept it. But in Dark Souls 2, Most of the guys you meet in PvP are max level because they farmed the Giant Lord for a couple of hours. And I'm not even fucking exaggerating. You get 500,000 souls per time you do him. And he's easy to do. You just spam a little magic on him and he drops like a fucking mushroom. And stuff like that just makes me say that Dark Souls 1 takes more skill to beat than Dark Souls 2. Or to be good at least. Like, I went back and played Dark Souls 1 after playing 140 hours of my original Xbox copy of Dark Souls 2. And I just really missed it, so I wanted to create a new character and go for an Artorias build. And I probably died more during that playthrough because I was so used to Dark Souls 2 and used to things work there. I probably died more during that playthrough than I did in my first playthrough of Dark Souls 2. And that just shows you and tells you how easy Dark Souls 2 really is. Now, people can argue that you can use the company of champions and bonfire aesthetics. Well, I shouldn't have to make my game harder. It should be that challenging and unforgiving from the start off, and that is just what makes it so goddamn satisfying. If I'm able to beat almost all of the bosses in the entire game on my first or second try, then there's something wrong there. And the reason why so many people find the bosses so easy is because they are so similar. Like, it's 2 or 3 combos, then you dodge or roll or block after like 2 or 3 hits, then they leave you an opening and you go in for the strike. Like, that repeats throughout the entire fight, and it just feels so sloppy when it gets repeated over and over with the same bosses with similar designs. Like, I do not know what they would think. Hopefully the DLC will give us some more challenging bosses and some better map design. I'm really hoping for that, because the DLC in Dark Souls 1 is one of my favorites part in the entire game, and Calamite, Manus, and Artorias are some of the best boss fights in the entire game. So I'm really hoping for the DLCs to cut on this game, but even if they do, it will still not change the fact that the main game is still lacking when it comes to these parts. Whew, yeah. I gotta calm down now. Alright, I got about 3 more topics I want to talk about before ending this video. I will try not to make it too long. I'm sorry, guys, but I didn't realize how much I was burning for this topic before I actually started talking about it. So, the 3 last things for me are the lore and the story, the NPCs, and the forging system / upgrade system. So I'll be talking about the forging system first. Now, this one was kind of close, but I'll have to go in Dark Souls 1's favor, only because it's slightly easier to get the weapon you want, and you don't have to waste as much material in Dark Souls 1 as you had to do in Dark Souls 2, which happens a lot, because a lot of the good weapons you only get later in the game, and then you'll just have to waste a lot of Titanite shards and stuff on that on weapon you just have to upgrade then, and you only have them temporarily, and then you just throw them away, never use them again once you get that weapon that you want to use. In Dark Souls 1, however, if I want to make a build around the Chaos Blade or the Abyss Greatsword, then I can just use either the Uchigatana, a Claymore, a Swihunter, or something like that. Use that weapon until I get the boss soul, because I can just make that weapon into the boss weapon. So it's just a lot easier like that, and I really like that. I also like that you have to hunt down and find those embers. It was just much more satisfying when you first find the large ember. You're like, yes! I can finally upgrade my weapon to +10. I'm so powerful now. Like in Dark Souls 2, you can just upgrade them from +10 from the start of, so there's no really meaning into it anymore. Alrighty, so now the lore and the story. So first we'll talk about the lore. Now the lore is pretty hidden in both of the games. You really have to get deep into the game or watch some YouTube videos to know what it's all about. Personally, I find the Dark Souls 1 characters / NPC / lore pretty much on everything much more interesting than what I did in Dark Souls 2. Dark Souls 2's lore is alright, it's not bad by any means, but some of it doesn't really make any sense. Now, when it comes to the story, in Dark Souls 1 it was pretty clear. Like in my first playthrough, I had a good idea of what I was doing. I was the Chosen Undead, I knew about the prophecy, and I knew I had to kill this Lord of Sunlight and rekindle the flame. Now, Dark Souls 2, on the other hand, just confused me. Why am I jumping into this whirlpool? Why am I going to seek the king? Why do I need to kill the 4 old ones? Tell me again, why do I need to see the king? Where does the queen come in all this? Why am I sitting on the throne? What's happening? What is this? Then I watched some YouTube videos and cleared things up for me, and it still is really disappointing for me. Because it feels like the entire point of Dark Souls 2 was just entirely pointless. Because all of this is just going to happen again and again and again and again and again. So, what the fuck's the point? Like, there's no reason for me to do this, because the next Chosen Undead will do it as well. So, I really don't get it. Like, how do you find that a good story element? Like, I don't like it personally. You may like it. This is just my opinion, but I feel like that is just bitter. It's like a bitter feeling. Now, if Dark Souls 3, if we get a Dark Souls 3, if they don't clear up on this, like, whole continuous thing of Chosen Undead, I would be really disappointed. It needs some closure. Now, what I said about most of the characters, the lore of the characters. I haven't read all of the lore of them yet. I read pretty much all of the lore in Dark Souls 1, but the reason I don't want to read up on the lore so much is because I don't really find any of the characters interesting. In my first playthrough of Dark Souls 1, I liked Soler. I liked Siegmeyer. I liked most of the characters I talked to. They were interesting. They were cool. They helped me in some way. They had some mission. They felt more alive because they had a story of their own. You interact with them a lot in a lot of different places. Like Siegmeyer, you find him in so many different places. And Soler, you can summon him for boss fights and stuff like that. And Patches and Lautrec kills the Firekeeper. So there was just a lot more variety in what they did. They all felt like they had their own goal and were just not there to serve you. While in Dark Souls 2, you talk to them once in the world, they go back to Majula and they just don't do anything more. Like, there's no interactions. The character you interact with most is like Lucatiel, and I don't really find her interesting either, because nothing really happens. So, that's my take on the NPCs. Like, you may disagree, but I don't really find any of the NPCs interesting, except for maybe a little bit of Lucatiel. I like her a little bit. She's cool. Holy shit, this video is 16 minutes long. So, I think I got my point across. In my opinion, I think Dark Souls 1 is the better game. Like, Dark Souls 2 improved on a lot of things, but they lacked in some of the other things that just made Dark Souls 1 such a good game. Now, I really hope that Bloodborne just nails all of these things and just creates another amazing game, because I did not get true satisfaction feeling. I did not feel a fear or just the pleasure of playing through another Souls game while I played through Dark Souls 2. It was a fun game. I really enjoy it, but I want to feel that feeling again, man. So tell me what you think. Leave your comments down below. Tell me if you disagree with me. Tell me if you agree with me. Sorry for rambling on so much, but I just really had to get this off my chest. And thank you guys for taking the time to actually watch the entire thing if you did. And I will see you guys next time.